Today I'm going to recap the film Basic Instinct 2. At the beginning of the movie, an American writer named Catherine Tramell drives a car through central London with her young lover, a famous English football player. Kevin Franks is sick, but he quickly succumbs to the charming woman's charms. She opens her legs and pleases herself. Catherine ends up losing control of the car, resulting in it falling off the bridge and into the river. Catherine tries unsuccessfully to save her boyfriend by unbuckling his seatbelts. Catherine is saved as a result of the accident, but the soccer player drowns in the river. During the interrogation, Detective Roy Washburn suspects Catherine because drugs were discovered in her lover's blood. She enjoys experimenting with life, drawing feeling from the danger and constant risk. Despite this, Catherine has never used drugs and has no idea how they actually ended up in the football player's blood. The investigation suspects the writer and recommends her to Dr. Michael Glass for an obligatory course of treatment. During the personal meeting, the woman acts strangely and does not feel bad about what has occurred. Following an examination, the psychiatrist soon announces his verdict in court. He regards Catherine as a sociopath who does not differentiate between right and wrong and enjoys going to extremes that can result in death. Michael contacts a journalist and his ex-lover wives after the trial. Adam Towers informs the therapist of his horrible experience and the ramifications that followed. He directed an illegal drug dealer 7 years ago and failed to report his intent to commit another crime. As a result, the man was permanently convinced by his lover and sentenced to prison. Michael felt so strongly about it, and it took him so many years to deal with the police's condemnation and censure. When he sees his wife Denise, he chastises her for disclosing his inner anguish to his lover. Back at work, the psychiatrist runs into his colleague Melina Gardash and tells her about his conversation with Catherine. Simultaneously, the detective calls and tells him that the author is still free due to a lack of proof. However, the cop is certain that she will not rest and will soon commit another crime. On the same night, Michael talks with prominent psychiatrist Gerst, who studies the behavior of maniacs and mad criminals. He meets Adam's intern at a cafe and wants to speak with him about a personal talk with Catherine, but Michael chooses to ignore him and rips up Peter's business card. At the office he meets Catherine, who wants to see him. He can't take her on because he was working on a forensic report, and he wants to recommend her to another psychiatrist. Catherine tells the doctor about her imaginations, which entices the psychiatrist's interest, and he agrees for a second visit. Catherine returns to the psychotherapist a few days later and mentions how similar her work is to crime. She does not rule out the possibility that she drowned the soccer player intentionally. She believes the psychologist and fully understands that their talk will not be leaked, however she does not confirm it. Going to the nearby bookshop, Michael buys up all the author's novels and began reading them one at a time. While holding regular meetings, the psychiatrist gets to know Catherine better and better. She discusses her relationship with a police officer known as the Shooter, as well as the deaths of a popular rock performer and 2 detectives a few years ago. She was held responsible for all of the crimes, but the true culprit turned out to be the cop's closest friend. While listening to Catherine, the psychiatrist thinks less about her psychological state and looking more on her legs and body figure. The writer meets Melina and chats with her at another psychologist's party. Michael is troubled by his patient's appearance and wishes to go home. Before leaving, Catherine gives him a lighter and tells him to put it in her handbag. Way out the door, the writer indicates for an intimacy session, but the psychiatrist resists and does not capitulate to the tricking offer of the woman. When he meets Michelle, he proposes a date, and the two quickly find up at Michael's house. The sex game is disrupted by a call from a concerned Denise, who requests support from her ex-husband. Michael arrives at his ex-wife's house and discovers Adam's dead body in bed. As he approaches, he unintentionally steps on the same lighter that the psychiatrist have seen in Catherine's hands. The cops came quickly to the scene and investigate the situation. Detective Roy discovers the proof in a trash can and suspects Michael of covering something. During another visit, the writer tells that Adam has just been found murdered by the police. He turned out to be her boyfriend, whom she had fantasized about to strangle. Such a coincidence makes Michael question his patient, but she persuades him that she was not involved in it. Choosing to ignore the psychiatrist's questions, the writer wishes to smoke, which enrages the doctor. While clearly putting out her cigarette, she seduces Michael and starts playing with his fantasy with vulgar acts. The psychiatrist gives in and becomes provoked, so he can't even say anything and can only stare at Catherine's legs. When the meeting is concluded, the writer notifies him that their meetings are over now. Michael tries to call the woman several times on his way home, attempting to schedule another consultation, but she chooses to ignore him. A detective approaches the psychiatrist outside his house and informs him that Catherine and Michael's ex-wife had been intimate with the journalist. All of the information leads to one of them as the murderer of Adam, but the detective believes Catherine is to blame. She's already had 2 victims, and the third will be arriving shortly. The psychiatrist tries to defend the patient, believing that they should not be imprisoned only on the basis of rumor and assumption. Detective Roy gets suspicious of him after strongly reacting to Michael's silence, as the journalist was writing a controversial report that could ruin his professional career. Meeting with other patients, Michael can only think of Catherine. After completing his work, he locates Catherine and begins stalking her, discovering that she has walked into one of the brothels. The man strives to follow her but eventually finds that the writer was only looking for a group sex. She notices Michael and stares him down, as if teasing the lovesick psychiatrist. Michael visits his ex-wife in the evening and realizes that she, too, is friendly to Catherine and has even dated her. Michael wishes to tell her of the danger, but Dennis flees. In search of his wife, he spots her meeting Catherine and enters a women's toilet. The psychiatrist discovers his wife with her throat slashed in one of the stalls. The man attempts to help her, but she dies. At the police station, Roy interrogates the psychiatrist and does not rule out the possibility that he is responsible for all of the crimes. Witnesses observed both the exes arguing and believe Michael was involved, but there isn't enough proof to charge him, so he is freed. When he arrives at Catherine's place, he relates what has occurred, and the two indulge in a sexual encounter. In the morning, Michael discovers an insulin injection vial in the refrigerator and takes it to Roy to be tested. When the psychiatrist meets Catherine's lawyer, he discovers that the detective is not as straight as he appears, and that he was suspected of tampering with evidence. After seeing Adam's employee, Michael tries to learn more about the publishing and why the journalist never finished it. It emerges out that he was intended to expose Roy, but there is no record of his criminal activities. Michael returns to Catherine's residence and discovers that the author has detected the missing of an injection vial. Inside it is insulin meant for her mate, but it is feasible to perform tests that will establish this. Having lost faith in the psychiatrist, he is chased out of the house by the woman. Outside, Michael senses that he is being watched, and it appears out that he is being followed by Roy, who has already examined the components of the vial. According to his story, a potent unlawful drug was discovered inside the brothel near the man who was matting with Catherine. To learn more about the author, Roy suggests contacting a San Francisco police officer. After calling Phil Walker, the doctor learns of Catherine's past crimes. When Michael arrives at the writer's house, he wants her to be truthful, but she tricks with him and his emotions. When the man becomes enraged, he assaults her and holds her even by neck, but she merely smiles back. When he returns home, he explodes with anger and remembers a CD containing a copy of the writer's next novel, The Analyst. He learns after reading the text that it covers all of the recent occurrences in which Catherine is not only the author but also the story's central character. Thinking that Milana could be the next victim, he rushes to her and calls the investigator to his colleague's house as well. After entering the residence, Michael checks to see if the woman is still living. She warns him that she is aware of the psychiatrist's romance with the patient and will disclose it to the authorities. As a result of witnessing the writer at Melania's residence, Michael intends to attack Catherine but accidentally knocks his colleague aside, causing her to bang her head on the table. Michael is unaffected by her loss of consciousness. Catherine, on the other hand, is armed and warns him with a pistol. After retrieving the revolver, he hears to the writer accuse the dishonest cop of all his crimes. A short time later, Detective Roy breaks in the entrance and enters the residence. Michael shoots him after falling to Catherine's influence. The cops arrive quickly and arrest the perpetrator. Catherine later pays a visit to Michael in a mental hospital. She has completed the novel and is eager to share its storyline with her huge fan. It appears out neither the writer nor the police officer were murderers, and that the true culprit is a psychiatrist who expertly exploits other individuals as a cover for himself. He kills a detective to show a mental issue and gets himself at a pleasant hostel for the mentally ill after eliminating a journalist, his ex-wife, and a man matting with the writer from the path. However, because it is merely a book, there is no certainty that it is true. Michael brightens as he starts picking up the author's latest book. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe if you liked the video. It helps the channel a lot. See you in another recap video.